First Contact's Farewell. Ambassador Exelthrin stood at the observation deck of the Valaxian embassy in New Geneva, his iridescent scales reflecting the setting sun's rays. After 5 Earth years representing his people, he had grown accustomed to humanity's peculiarities, their boundless creativity, their inexplicable love of small talk, and their remarkable ability to turn any situation into what they called a joke. But today felt different. The usual bustling activity of Earth's premier diplomatic district had taken on an almost ceremonial quality. Humans moved with unusual purpose, their typical casual demeanor replaced by something more focused, more coordinated. Ambassador, his aide, Vera, interrupted his thoughts. The humans have requested to move our departure schedule forward by 6 hours. They're citing atmospheric conditions, but our instruments detect no anomalies. Zelthren's sensory crests twitched. In 5 years, the humans had never altered a diplomatic schedule without extensive discussion and documentation. Interesting. Have other embassies received similar requests? All of them, sir. The Arcturians, the Zen Collective, even the Meridian Concordat. Every non-human diplomatic mission is being politely but firmly asked to depart. Before Exelthrin could respond, his personal communicator chimed. The holographic display showed the familiar face of Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's Chief of Diplomatic Relations. Her usual warm smile was present, but something in her eyes seemed different. Ambassador Exelthrin, I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Her voice carried its usual politeness, but there was an underlying urgency he'd never heard before. Not at all, Dr. Chen. I was just discussing the departure schedule changes with my staff. I must admit, it's rather unusual. Yes, I apologize for the short notice. We've detected some unusual solar activity that could affect upper atmosphere conditions. Pure precaution, you understand. Nothing to worry about. She paused, then added, I wanted to thank you personally for your service these past 5 years. You've been instrumental in building the bridge between our peoples. Zelthran's diplomatic training couldn't quite suppress his confusion. You make it sound like a final farewell, Doctor. I'm scheduled to return in 3 weeks. Sarah's smile flickered for just a moment. Of course. However, I've learned it's always good to Zelthran watched as a shimmering field of energy began to encapsulate the entire solar system. The mathematics of it should have been impossible. No civilization had ever managed to create a field of this scale. Just before the barrier completed its formation, a final transmission reached their ship. It contained only 2 lines of text. Thank you for everything, Ambassador. Remember what I told you about humanity's greatest strength. Exelthrin remembered the conversation well. It had been during his first year on Earth, when he'd expressed confusion about humanity's seemingly contradictory nature. Sarah had smiled and said, Our greatest strength isn't our technology, our creativity, or even our determination. It's our ability to come together when we need to put aside our differences when something bigger than ourselves demands it. As the barrier sealed itself, cutting off all contact with the solar system, Zelthran realized he had just witnessed perhaps the greatest example of that strength in human history. Whatever had prompted this unprecedented action, humanity had coordinated on a scale never before seen to make it happen. Your orders, Ambassador, Vera asked quietly. Set course for the Galactic Council. They need to know what we've witnessed here. He paused, watching the last visible signs of Earth fade behind the barrier. And make sure those cultural archives are secure. I have a feeling we're going to need everything we can remember about humanity in the days to come. As their ship entered hyperspace, Zelthran couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't an ending, but a beginning. Humanity hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They were preparing for something. And whatever it was, it had to be big enough to justify turning their entire civilization into a fortress. Ripples across the stars. The grand exchange of Centauri Prime had never been so quiet. Trading pods that normally pulsed with activity hung empty and dark, their holographic displays showing cascading red numbers. In her private office overlooking the exchange floor, Chief Economic Advisor Nixa watched her civilization's economy crumble with remarkable composure, all 6 of her eyes fixed on the latest reports. Another 17 systems have declared economic emergency, her assistant, Tech, announced, his crystalline form dimming with stress. The Rigelian Banking Consortium is threatening to call in their loans, and the Andromeda markets have suspended all trading in human-derived technologies. Nix's facial tentacles curled in contemplation. Show me the affected sectors again. The holographic display expanded, showing hundreds of interconnected trade routes glowing in angry red. Earth's influence on galactic commerce had been far more extensive than anyone realized. It wasn't just their advanced technology or unique resources. Humans had systematically woven themselves into the fabric of galactic society. It's almost elegant, she mused. Look at these patterns. The humans didn't just trade. They created dependencies. Their coffee beans are processed in Proxima facilities, using machinery built in the Vega system, transported by ships using Earth-patented quantum drives, insured by Arcturian firms, and sold through marketing networks designed by human advertising agencies. And now it's all stopping, Tech added. But why? Why would they deliberately trigger an economic collapse? Before Nixa could respond, every screen in her office suddenly flickered to life, showing what humans called a movie trailer. The scenes showed humans throughout their history, facing disasters, wars, and challenges, always emerging stronger. The final frame froze on a single line of text. Sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. On the military world of Kraz Prime, General Vorkath stormed through the War College's simulation chamber, his scales darkened with rage. The latest battle simulations had failed spectacularly, again. Impossible, he roared. How can we be losing to an enemy that isn't even here? His chief strategist, a being of pure energy contained within an environmental suit, gestured at the holographic battlefield. The humans didn't just leave, sir. They left behind automated defense systems we never knew existed. Our ships can't even approach their abandoned outposts without triggering countermeasures we don't understand. Show me, Vorkath demanded. The simulation played again. As their virtual fleet approached a seemingly abandoned human mining facility, their ship's systems began failing in cascading patterns. Power cores shifted to safety protocols. Weapons systems initiated emergency shutdowns, and navigation computers began playing something called "Never Gonna Give You Up" on endless repeat. They turned their entire defensive network into something they called a practical joke, the strategist explained. But the joke is on us. We can't disable what we don't understand, and we don't understand how they think. In the diplomatic quarter of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Exelthran's testimony was causing an uproar. Representatives from 100 species argued over the implications of Earth's disappearance, their voices, telepathic broadcasts, and pheromone signals creating a cacophony of confusion and fear. Order. The Ancient One, a being old enough to remember the birth of stars, raised all 4 of their gravitational manipulation fields. The chamber fell silent. Ambassador Exelthran, they continued, you were the last diplomat to receive a personal communication from Earth. In your opinion, was this an act of aggression? Exelthran's scales shifted through thoughtful patterns of color. No, Ancient One. This was preparation. The humans I knew were capable of great violence, yes, but they preferred creation to destruction. Whatever prompted this action, they believed it was necessary for survival, not just their own, but possibly ours as well. Explain, the Ancient One commanded. Humans had a saying. The quiet ones are the ones you need to watch. In all my years studying them, they were never quiet. They'd broadcast their entertainment, their arguments, their dreams and fears across every frequency. The only time humans went silent was when they were focusing completely on a task they considered vital. The chamber erupted again as a junior council member burst in, their tentacles writhing with excitement. Counselors, we're detecting unusual activity in the void sectors. The void sectors, the empty regions of space where stars and planets should have been but weren't. Ancient records spoke of vast civilizations that had simply vanished, leaving behind only darkness. For millennia, nothing had stirred in those haunted regions of space. Until now. As the Council watched in horror, long-dormant sensor networks began detecting movement in the void. Massive shapes stirred in the darkness between stars, things that shouldn't exist, things that had slept for eons. On a secure channel that few knew existed, a message arrived from Earth's barrier. It contained no words, just a simple image. A human finger pressed to lips in their universal gesture for silence, followed by a countdown clock. In her office above the now silent Grand Exchange, Nixa finally understood. The humans hadn't abandoned the galaxy. They were protecting it. They had seen something coming, something ancient and terrible, and they had spent years preparing for it. Their apparent chaos had been a smokescreen, hiding careful preparation and planning. She remembered something a human trader had once told her over a cup of their precious coffee. The funny thing about humans is, we're really good at pretending to be bad at pretending. Makes people underestimate just how well we can keep a secret when we need to. As the countdown clock ticked away and the shapes in the void grew larger, the galaxy began to understand just how many secrets humanity had been keeping. The only question was, would they emerge from their self-imposed exile in time to share those secrets with the rest of the galaxy? The hidden signal. Dr. Zaravine hunched over her quantum sensor array in the forgotten observatory on the edge of the Pleiades, her bioluminescent patches pulsing with excitement. After 3 months of analyzing the electromagnetic silence from Earth's solar system, she had found something extraordinary. "Play it again," she commanded her lab's eye. "Overlay all frequencies." The holographic display burst into life, showing what appeared to be random fluctuations in the barrier surrounding Earth's solar system. But Zaravine had spent her entire career studying human communication patterns, and she knew better than most. With humans, nothing was truly random. "There," she whispered, her tendrils extending in concentration. "Every 73.2 seconds. There's a pattern. It's subtle, almost like a heartbeat," finished a voice behind her. Ambassador Exelthrin stepped out of the shadows, his scales shifting to match the observatory's dim lighting. "You weren't easy to find, Doctor." Zaravine's chromatophores flashed in surprise. "Ambassador, this is a private research station. How did you find you?" "I followed the coffee shipments." His facial tentacles twitched in what he'd learned was the universal gesture of amusement. "You're the only xenolinguist in this sector still receiving Earth's exports through the black market. Very clever using old trading routes the humans established." She gestured at her cluttered workspace, covered in artifacts from Earth, books, movies, music players, even a vintage laptop. Someone had to keep studying them. Everyone else is too busy panicking about the economic collapse or the movements in the void sectors. "Show me what you found." Zaravine manipulated the holographic display, zooming in on the barrier's energy patterns. "It's not just a shield. The entire barrier is a form of computational matrix. The humans turned their whole solar system into some kind of massive quantum computer. But look at these fluctuations." She overlaid a sequence of human musical notes onto the pattern. The correlation was undeniable. The barrier's energy fluctuations matched perfectly with an old human song. "The Sound of Silence." Exelthran recognized the melody, one of their most famous musical compositions about communication through absence. "Clever." "That's just the carrier wave." Zaravine's bioluminescence brightened with enthusiasm. "Look what's encoded within it." The display shifted, revealing layers upon layers of embedded data. Star charts, technical specifications, mathematical formulas, all hidden within the seemingly random fluctuations of the barrier. "They're not just hiding," she explained. "They're broadcasting instructions, very specific instructions, but only to those who know how to look for them." "Ambassador, These formulas, they're unlike anything I've ever seen. If I'm interpreting them correctly, they're describing weapons. Weapons designed to fight something ancient, something that exists partly outside normal spacetime. Before Excelthrin could respond, every piece of human technology in the laboratory activated simultaneously. The vintage laptop, the music players, even the old digital watch on Zaravin's desk, all displaying the same message. They're waking up faster than expected. Begin Phase 2. The observatory's main screen flickered to life, showing a massive star map. Dozens of points began glowing red, spreading outward from the void sectors like a virus. Those are populated systems, Excelthrin realized with horror, all going dark, just like Earth did. But not from any attack. They're being evacuated. The humans knew this was coming. They've been preparing safe zones. Zaravin's analysis programs were already processing the new data. Ambassador, these evacuation patterns, they're not random. Look at the systems being cleared. They form a barrier around something. The humans are creating a containment zone. A new message appeared on the screens. To those who understand, prepare the others. They'll need you when we return. Suddenly, the observatory's quantum sensors screamed alerts. In the void sectors, something massive was stirring. The long-range scanners showed impossible readings. Space itself was being torn apart by entities that defied comprehension. That's why Earth went silent, Zaravin whispered. They didn't just see this coming. They found a way to fight it. But they needed time to prepare, to develop weapons that could work against beings that don't fully exist in our reality. And they couldn't risk these entities discovering their plans. Excelthrin watched as more systems began their organized evacuations, following the hidden instructions in Earth's barrier. No species has ever managed to coordinate on this scale before. The logistics alone should be impossible. Unless Zaravin's bioluminescence pulsed with sudden understanding. They've been practicing for years. Every human movie about alien invasions, every simulation game, every emergency response drill, they were preparing their entire civilization for this moment. Not through military training, but through entertainment. A final message scrolled across their screens. Phase 2 complete. Beginning Phase 3. Hold the line. We are coming. In that moment, as ancient horrors rose from the void and civilizations rushed to follow humanity's hidden evacuation plans, Zaravin understood something fundamental about the species she had studied for so long. Humans hadn't gone silent out of fear or weakness. They had gone silent because they were done talking. It was time to act. Through her observatory's windows, she could see ships from a dozen species following the encoded evacuation routes, moving with a coordination that would have seemed impossible just months ago. Humanity's final gift to the galaxy might not have been their technology or their culture, but something far more valuable: a plan for survival. As the entities from the void drew closer, Zaravin began broadcasting her findings to every system that could still receive signals. The humans had left them a blueprint for survival, hidden in plain sight within their barrier of silence. Now it was up to the rest of the galaxy to follow it. The awakening. The void entities moved like oil through water, their impossible geometries tearing at the fabric of reality. On the emergency command bridge of the Galactic Council's last stronghold, representatives from 1,000 species watched in horror as another system went dark, not from evacuation this time, but from total annihilation. General Vorkath, now coordinating what remained of the combined fleet, slammed his scaled fist against the tactical display. We've lost the Rigel defense line. Our weapons pass right through them. They're not just passing through, Dr. Zaravin corrected, her bioluminescence dimmed with exhaustion. The entities exist partially outside our dimension. We're trying to fight shadows with solid objects. The Ancient One's gravitational fields pulsed with concern. The human evacuation protocols have saved billions, but we cannot run forever. These beings are systematically destroying everything in their path. Suddenly, every screen on the command bridge flickered. The countdown clock that had been broadcasting from Earth's barrier since the beginning reached 0. Silence fell across the command center. Then, like a supernova in reverse, Earth's barrier began to collapse inward. The massive energy field that had isolated the solar system for months imploded with impossible precision, forming complex geometric patterns as it fell. By the first stars, Zaravine breathed, her sensors overloading. They weren't just hiding behind that barrier. They were using it to rebuild their entire solar system. As the barrier fell, the Sol system was revealed, but not as anyone remembered it. The planets remained in their orbits, but they were transformed. Mercury had become a massive energy collector, its entire surface covered in technology that defied analysis. Venus glowed with artificial evolutionary algorithms, made manifest in planet-scale quantum computers. Mars bristled with weapons that hurt to look at directly, operating on principles that shouldn't be possible. And Earth had become something else entirely. The planet pulsed with layers of technology so advanced they appeared organic. Cities had transformed into computational nodes, oceans into data networks, the very atmosphere into a sensor array that could detect fluctuations in reality itself. They didn't go silent to hide. Ambassador Exelthran realized, his scales shifting through patterns of awe. They went silent because they needed every bit of energy, every scrap of computational power, to complete their transformation. Before anyone could respond, a transmission reached them, the first from Earth in months. The holographic projection showed a familiar face, Dr. Sarah Chen, though she looked decades older than when Selthran had last seen her. To all surviving species, she began, her voice carrying the weight of centuries compressed into months. We apologize for our silence, but it was necessary. What we had to build couldn't risk being detected before it was ready. The entities you face are older than time itself, but they have one critical weakness. They cannot comprehend species working together as equals. The display shifted, showing schematics for weapons and defensive systems, unlike anything the galaxy had seen before. These will help you fight them, but they're not enough alone. The real weapon is what we learned while building them. True cooperation, not just between individuals, but between entire species. Across the galaxy, automated systems hidden in abandoned human outposts activated. Quantum cores that had laid dormant burst to life, connecting with Earth's new planetary network. The transformation that had remade Sol began spreading outward, offering itself to any species willing to accept it. The barrier wasn't just for protection. Sarah continued. It was an incubator, a chrysalis. We needed to evolve, to become something new. But what we became is not meant for humans alone. It's meant for all of us. As if to emphasize her point, a void entity chose that moment to attack the Council's stronghold. But before it could strike, something impossible happened. A fleet of ships emerged from Earth's direction, but they weren't ships in any conventional sense. They were more like ideas given form, geometry made manifest, crewed by beings that were somehow both human and more than human. The entity recoiled as the ships approached, experiencing perhaps for the first time in its ancient existence, something it had never known before. Fear. We offer you a choice. Sarah's transmission continued. Join us in what we've become, or stand alone against what's coming. We can face them together, as equals, or watch as they consume everything we've built, world by world, species by species. The fleet engaged the void entity, their weapons not so much destroying it as rewriting the laws of physics around it. Reality itself seemed to reject the ancient horror's existence, forcing it back into the darkness from which it came. General Vorkath watched in stunned silence as his tactical displays tried and failed to make sense of what they were seeing. What did they become in there? Something new, Zaravine answered, her bioluminescence pulsing with understanding. Something that could only exist because they chose to face it together. She paused, watching as more fleets emerged from Sol, spreading across the galaxy like antibodies fighting an infection. They didn't just prepare for this war, they evolved to fight it. And now they're offering to help us evolve too. Dawn of understanding. The transformation spread across the galaxy like a wave of enlightenment. Species after species accepted humanity's offer, their worlds undergoing the same metamorphosis that had changed Earth. But it wasn't a surrender of identity. It was an evolution, a synthesis of what was best in each civilization with what humanity had discovered during their months of isolation. In the Centauri system, Nixa watched as her world's economy transformed from abstract numbers into a living network of genuine value exchange. Markets became something organic, responding not to fear and greed, but to the real needs of all species involved. "It's beautiful," she whispered, her 6 eyes tracking the flow of resources and ideas across the new networks. They didn't just build better technology. They found a better way to exist. The void entities continued their assault, but each attack was met with increasing resistance. The transformed worlds didn't just fight back. They rewrote the rules of engagement. Reality itself seemed to be choosing sides. On the front lines, General Vorkath commanded a fleet that was no longer just ships and weapons, but an extension of collective will. His crew, once bound by rigid military hierarchy, now operated as a single consciousness while maintaining their individual perspectives. "I never understood them before," he commented to his now transformed bridge crew. "Humans always seemed so chaotic, so contradictory, but they saw something we didn't, that our differences weren't weaknesses to be overcome, but strengths to be combined." In her observatory, now a node in the galactic consciousness, Dr. Zaravine finally decoded the last pieces of humanity's plan. The barrier hadn't just been for protection or transformation. It had been a message written in the language of physics itself, a blueprint for transcendence. They knew they couldn't fight the void entities directly. She explained to Ambassador Excelthran, their consciousness now able to share understanding directly. "You can't defeat something that exists outside normal spacetime with conventional weapons, so they changed the nature of spacetime itself." The final battle, when it came, wasn't really a battle at all. As the last and largest of the void entities emerged from their dimensional rifts, they found themselves facing not a collection of separate civilizations, but a unified galaxy that had transformed itself into something they couldn't comprehend. The entities, ancient beyond measure, faced something truly new for the first time in their existence. They encountered a reality that no longer had room for their kind of existence, a universe that had evolved beyond their ability to threaten it. One by one, they retreated to their dark dimensions, leaving behind a galaxy forever changed. But it wasn't the end of individual species or cultures, rather it was a new beginning. Dr. Sarah Chen, now more an idea than a physical being, addressed the transformed galaxy one final time. "We didn't just build weapons or defenses, we built a new way of being. Each species remains unique, special, but now we're also part of something larger. Not through conquest or assimilation, but through choice and understanding." The message spread across the neural networks that now connected the galaxy. Humanity's greatest gift hadn't been their technology or their sacrifice, but their vision of what was possible when different species chose to work together. Ambassador Excelthran, standing on the transformed observation deck of the Galactic Council, watched as the last traces of the void entities vanished from their sensors. "They never understood what they were really fighting," he mused. "They thought they were attacking isolated worlds, separate species. Instead, they helped create something greater than any one civilization could have become alone." The galaxy had learned humanity's final lesson. True strength didn't come from power or technology, but from the choice to stand together, to combine their unique perspectives and abilities into something greater than the sum of its parts. As the transformed civilizations began exploring their new existence, a simple message appeared across all networks, written in every language simultaneously. "Thank you for choosing to evolve with us. The real adventure begins now." The silence that had started it all had been broken, replaced not by chaos or confusion, but by a harmony of countless voices, each unique, each valued, all part of something greater. Humanity's greatest trick hadn't been disappearing. It had been helping the galaxy discover what it could become when it chose to face the darkness together. The end was just the beginning.